Victory against Cameroon, sealing that result. So a win for either side would surely take them through into the last 16 of the World Cup. Brazil, of course, expected to get to that stage and well beyond, actually. They were one of the pre-tournament favourites. Switzerland, on the other hand, they are a pretty good tournament team, it's widely accepted. Maybe don't quite have the stardust to take them through to the latter stages, but they are a very solid unit under Murat Yakin, so it's not going to be an easy game for Tite's side. It's Brazil in their traditional yellow shirts and blue shorts. They're going from left to right in the first half. Switzerland all in red, going from right to left. Brazil have got Alisson in goal, a back four of Eder Militao, Marquinhos, Thiago Silva and Alexandro, Lucas Paqueta, Casemiro and Fred in midfield, with Rafinha and Vinicius Junior flanking Richarlison. No Neymar, of course. He suffered that ankle injury against Serbia and he is out of the next two group fixtures, though there is hope that he will be able to get back to fitness for the latter stages, if Brazil get there, of course. Switzerland have Jan Sommer in goal, Sylvain Widmer, Manuel Akanji, Nico Elvedi and Ricardo Rodriguez make up the back four, with Remo Freuler and Granit Xhaka anchoring midfield. Fabian Rieder, Ruben Vargas and Djibril Sow are in behind. The goal scorer against Cameroon in Breel and Bolo. Xherdan Shaqiri dropped to the bench in what's a slightly surprising change from Murat Yakin. It's myself, Dan McCarthy and Paul Shabakovic taking you through this contest. Paul, I think we expect Brazil to win, but it's certainly not going to be an easy ride for them.
It's not going to be an easy, Dan, absolutely right. I mean, I think that you made that point about Switzerland being a good tournament side. They've certainly had a recipe over the past 15 years to getting out of groups, getting out of qualifying and getting to a finals. But against Brazil this afternoon, you would expect Brazil to control the game. Perhaps Xhaka, perhaps the change with Shaqiri being taken out of the team is perhaps having a slightly more defensive-minded midfielder on that side, just to try and arrest what Brazil are going to do. But already a free kick for Brazil inside the first 2 minutes and a great chance to get the ball in.
And the Brazilian fans are already making plenty of noise. So some early defending now for Switzerland, who've got a very organised lineup. The referee just blowing his whistle. It's sent into the box and it's just missed at the near post by Richarlison. Marquinhos is going to try and rescue it on this near side. He can't quite prevent the ball from going out of play for a throw-in, but there was just a little bit of switching off there from Switzerland as Richarlison tried to glance the header closer towards goal at the near side. It went over his head and Switzerland were glad to see the ball just flash wide and out of play for a throw-in as Rodriguez takes it, and then it's a very big header out of play now for a goal kick. But an early opportunity for Brazil to try and take the lead, as they're unbeaten in their last 16 group stage games at the World Cup. No side has ever gone 17 without defeat. They are the masters of this stage of the competition, but it's 20 years now since Brazil managed to last win the World Cup. A couple of Ronaldo goals defeating Germany in the Korea and Japan tournament, as Switzerland now have a free kick on the halfway line. Djibril Sow brought down by Casemiro. There's a very Manchester United look to the Brazil midfield, with Casemiro and Fred both in there. Are you a little bit surprised that the change that's seen Neymar drop out has been Fred to come in midfield, because it's certainly not a like-for-like change?
It's not, no. It's almost as if Tite's feeling that perhaps there's going to be a lot of possession play from Switzerland, and he wants that extra body in midfield just to try and do it. That'll break off. There was a long ball played here to Mbolo, but that was well cut out there by Alisson. But that's something that Brazil are going to have to be aware of. Breel Mbolo is a tricky customer up front, and they are going to try and hit him with long balls, I think, this evening.
Yeah, he's been around the block quite a long time as Breel Mbolo. He's long been regarded as a really promising young player. He's not that young anymore, as Alisson nearly gives the ball away, but Brazil do just enough to rescue it. But this has been a slightly shaky start from Brazil, and Switzerland are looking to try and get on top of things and create early opportunities. Here is Rodriguez on the near side now. He rolls it back to Nico Elvedi, and Manuel Akanji, who's been outstanding for Manchester City since making the deadline day move from Borussia Dortmund, is in possession. Now Rodriguez plays it forward quickly. Sow is trying to run and put Thiago Silva under pressure, and he certainly does that. The Chelsea man forced to concede the corner kick. I say forced, he probably didn't need to touch the ball then.
He could have left it, he could have actually flicked it out for a throw as well. It seemed like he gave up very early on that one, Thiago Silva. Perhaps there is a bit of additional pressure here on Brazil. They just seem to be struggling to get hold of the ball, and Switzerland trying to capitalise on that.
Yeah, 5.5 minutes in, and Switzerland have their first corner kick of the game. It's going to be taken by Ruben Vargas, so a set-piece opportunity for Switzerland, but it's a really poor delivery, and that's going to go behind for a goal kick. So a wasted opportunity for Switzerland to try and create a chance.
You get a corner kick and it's wicked in at chest height towards the near post, the easiest corner kick for a defence to deal with, and it just goes out harmlessly for a goal kick in the end. But certainly Switzerland, if Brazil are a little bit nervous, a little bit tentative to get on the ball, then Switzerland have to capitalise on that, because you would imagine the longer the game goes on, Brazil are going to get into their stride. Yeah,
they certainly will. Here is Thiago Silva now, the man who brings vast amounts of experience to the lineup. 111 caps now for the 38-year-old. He's not the oldest man in the squad, bizarrely enough. Dani Alves is on the bench, the former Barcelona right back, as Brazil look to try and link something up down that far left-hand side, but Silva Vidma, who might be a little bit busy this afternoon, as will Ricardo Rodriguez up against Vinicius Junior and Rafinha, as mentioned. Neymar is absent, but that doesn't mean that Brazil don't have potential match winners in their side, and you'd arguably say that it is probably the strongest group Brazil have had, maybe since they last won the World Cup, or maybe the 2006 tournament, when they had a very good squad going into that one as well. But Switzerland win the ball back. They're certainly no mugs. They are looking for back-to-back wins at the start of a World Cup for the first ever time. They've never managed to get to win their first two matches in a group stage, so looking to make a little bit of history themselves. It was a lovely touch by Vinicius Junior on the far side, but unfortunately the ball just went out into touch for a throw-in. Vidma has the ball in his hands midway inside his own half, just pondering his options as he searches for one of his teammates. Gets it back from Jibril Sow, and then the long ball is played up to Briel Mbolo. It does bring plenty of speed and energy to the Switzerland attack, and one of the things that he can certainly do is stretch the channels. So if Switzerland do want to play on the counter-attack, that is the option. Rodriguez whips one in from the near side. It's easily dealt with by Marquinhos. Played upfield now towards Richarlison, who's the chosen one as far as Brazil are concerned. And well, if you were asked a question a couple of years ago who'd be playing up front for Brazil in the World Cup, I don't think too many would have said Richarlison, but his scoring record's been unbelievable for them.
It's been fantastic. He scored a great goal as well the other night, didn't he? The overhead kick, absolutely fabulous goal from Richarlison. And I mean, he doesn't even get regular starts for his new club, does he, at Spurs? He's obviously had a few good performances for them, but tends to be more of a bench player for Antonio Conte. But it just goes to show that, I mean, you saw some of the emotion of the Brazilian players as the anthem was being sung. They know how massive this is for them to be playing for Brazil in a World Cup, and the expectation is, well, that they're going to win it. That's effectively what the Brazilian public expects every time. Yeah, very patriotic and passionate nation are Brazil, and it is Richarlison who is the leading man for them today. They do have his North London rival Gabriel Jesus on the bench. They want to turn to him, but it's a real big show of faith from Tite, and it's faith that's been repaid in this calendar year as far as Brazil are concerned. 9 goals in 7 appearances for the Tottenham man, as Brazil in possession of the ball now with Marquinhos, who plays his football for PSG, another vastly experienced customer. 73rd cap for him today. It's just a bit loose in midfield though from Brazil, and Remo Freuler, the Nottingham Forest man, is there to make the challenge, but Brazil have it back. Just under 10 minutes gone. It's Brazil 0, Switzerland 0. Independent off-tube studio commentary on a day that's been a real goal feast as far as the World Cup goes. It's been a tournament where goals haven't exactly shone so far, but a 3-3 draw and a 3-2 today. Ghana prevailing against South Korea, and then this morning elsewhere in Group G, important
for these two teams. Cameroon came back from 3-1 down to draw with Serbia 3-all as Switzerland run now down the far side. It's with Sylvain Widmer. He was reluctant to cross it in first time, maybe felt that he didn't have the requisite number of options making runs into the box, and that might be the issue for Switzerland going forward, is that they might tend to play a little bit conservatively, and then when they do get forward, there aren't enough men to fire those crosses into.
Well, that's going to be the issue. But on that particular occasion, I thought he actually had enough players to try and put a ball into the box. There was 3 players in the area, another 2 at the edge of the box should the ball have been cleared. As we just see a free kick here as Nico Elvedi goes into the side of Richarlison. And as we know from his Premier League games, it doesn't take much for Richarlison to show that he's been fouled, but that actually was quite a bad foul on him.
Yep, he had every right to go down then, did Richarlison, as Thiago Silva goes for a long diagonal ball. It's well cut out by Elvedi, and now Vargas has the opportunity to run forward, but turns backwards to Ricardo Rodriguez, who's a player who you could say maybe is in the same mould as Breel Embolo, in that he was very highly thought of as a young player. His career's maybe not quite panned out the way he would have hoped, but he's still had a very good career. Here is Elvedi now in possession, along the line to Manuel Akanji, and Elvedi will accept the ball back. Switzerland just looking to try and thread a few passes together. Forward now into Vargas, and with Rodriguez on this near side, but that's well intercepted in midfield by Rafinha, and it's played forward quickly into the path of Richarlison. Richarlison looks to cut it back. He only had Vinicius Junior there, and it's very good defending on the cover from Sylvain Widmer.
It is very good defending, absolutely. Widmer had to come across there quickly. In fairness, Richarlison couldn't do much else. It was such a quick break. He may have actually had a kneecap offside as that ball was played to him, although the flag does stay down. But the only option was to try and pick out Vinicius Junior, who was well marked.
Yeah, I think it was Lucas Paqueta who played the ball forward to Richarlison with the outside of his right boot first time. It was a lovely pass from the West Ham man. As Brazil just get back into their shape now with Thiago Silva playing as the left-sided central defender. Marquinhos now gets it to Eder Militao. Quick passes, it's played to the box, in for Richarlison, but he can't gather the ball quickly enough, and he ends up just booting it out into touch for a goal kick. It was quick and incisive play from Brazil, just a little bit too quick for Richarlison's feet there.
Yeah, he just sort of knocked it with his left foot. He didn't intend to do that, and then as soon as he did that, the ball gets 2 or 3 yards away from him. He knows he's not going to stop it, but a little nervy start from Brazil, but the last 5 minutes in Switzerland, they were struggling to hold on to the ball now.
Yeah, they've won themselves a free kick on the far side. Fabian Rieder, who's not really had a chance to get involved yet, was brought down as Switzerland get the game back going again with the Manchester City man Akanji, and now Jan Sommer, who has always been very impressive in tournament football. He's a very safe pair of hands in between the sticks for Switzerland. Maybe some surprise that he's never earned a really massive move on the back of tournament play, and 33 years old, he's still got time. He's not old if you are a goalkeeper. Kanji now forward towards Embolo. He's left it for Sao. Embolo will get it back. He's brought down, and Casemiro may have to be careful now. It's the second time he's had a ticking off from the referee. He just gets the wrong side of Embolo, and it's a very clumsy challenge.
It's a clumsy challenge, but he kicks out at Embolo a little bit as well after he's actually brought him down. And Ivan Cisneros, our El Salvadorian referee, just having a quick word there with Casemiro. This is probably a little bit too far for Switzerland to think about a shot, and it's also quite central. So although Xhaka and Freuler are very good in these positions, they're going to have to be quite inventive here, I think.
Yeah, I think as much as Granit Xhaka loves a pile driver, it's probably a little bit too far out even for him. So he'll provide the left foot option, and Remo Freuler at the right. And as you mentioned, Paul, it's a central position, so it can be quite tricky to try and work something into the box. So let's see what they've maybe been working on the training field, as Freuler is going to leave it for Xhaka, and after all that build-up, it's taken short and square to Rodriguez. Here is Vargas now. Vargas on his right foot, crosses it in. It's cleared at the near post. It's a bit of a waste, but Switzerland still in possession, can still come forward, but for a loose touch from Sylvain Widmer, out of play for a throw-in.
We've had 15 minutes in this game, Dan, and Switzerland have had a corner which they wasted. They had a good chance to cross it from the right-hand side, and they chose not to, and then they lost possession. And they've just had a free kick there in an attacking position, with a cross never really making it into the box either. So they've actually had a few little opportunities to try and upset Brazil, but they haven't really taken them so far.
Throw-in taken by Alexandro. It's a long one inside his own half. It goes over everyone's head. Richarlison is going to try and chase it, but Sommer is comfortable in possession, and the ball will be recycled. But Freuler's put a very heavy pass on that out towards Akanji on the far side. A little bit of raggedness from Switzerland in the opening stages of the game, but Brazil don't have anything yet to show for it. They've not put Sommer under any pressure in terms of chances. No real clear-cut shots at goal yet, but I'm sure they will come. Here is Silva now, out to Sandro. Sandro works the ball infield, and it's back now with Marquinhos for Eder Militao on the halfway line. One of two changes that Brazil made to the side from the game against Serbia, where usual right-back Danilo is not in the starting 11. Militao favoured in that position. Brazil keeping hold of the ball along their back line, but not exactly going anywhere with it. Switzerland, as it stands, not too tempted to press Brazil heavily. I think their game plan is going to be to try and keep the game 0-0 for the first half and see what they can snatch in the second half.
I think that's the plan, but the issue with that is, as we've mentioned since the start of the game, is the longer the game goes on, the more likely Brazil are to get into their stride, to string their passes together, get Richarlison into the game. So if there are any weak spots at this Brazil team early on, Switzerland would do well to try and take advantage of them, really. But the way that Switzerland are set up, they are set up to try and soak up pressure. We've seen a couple of good challenges. Another great challenge there from Xhaka to dispossess Paqueta, and Switzerland with the ball back now with Jan Sommer. So they will feel as though they can still soak up the pressure, but how long they could do it for is the question.
Yeah, it's got to be a very disciplined performance from Switzerland if they are to try and get a result. And then, well, if they get beat here today, it'll all come down to the final group matches in this group that take place on Friday evening. Switzerland against Serbia and Cameroon against Brazil. And the final group games, as they usually do, will kick off at the same time, so as to not give any unfair advantage to certain teams. Here is Eder Militao across the field for Thiago Silva. Offered a little bit of space to come forward into, but he then squares it to Alexandro. Vinicius Junior now, two Switzerland players around him, but Vinicius Junior somehow manages to come away with the ball, and then he's upended. It's good close control, and he's probably going to be the man who Switzerland will try and double mark the most, Vinicius Junior.
Yes, I think so. He's the player that can cause the most problems. Very tricky player on that left-hand side. We've seen him for Real being unstoppable in certain games. But again, as soon as you start doing that, focusing too much on one player, let's not forget that Rafinha and Richarlison, the other two men in that front line, can cause you a lot of problems as well. Here
is Vinicius Junior now up against Sylvain Widmer, but again, it's a wall of red shirts in the way, and Widmer, he'll need all the help he can get. Paqueta now puts the ball in low. It's a really threatening delivery. It's just gone beyond Richarlison, and then it was cleared by Elvedi out for a throw-in. It's a fantastic ball played into a dangerous area by Paqueta. Unfortunate for Richarlison, who gets the ball back now, has to play with his back to goal. It's then floated in towards Rafinha at the back post. It's gathered then by Eder Militao. Rafinha is going to try and support him, but Militao can't keep the ball in play, and it goes out for a goal kick. But that's the best piece of attacking play we've seen from Brazil so far, and it's really clever play from Paqueta.
Oh, it is, yeah. That header just to put the ball into some space, and then a very precise ball into that 6-yard box. Wasn't too far away from Richarlison at all. You could see the grimace on his face there, as though he knows how close he was. We could see Tite there on the side, just trying to get some instructions out to his players. But I think he'll be a lot happy with the last 5 or 7 minutes.
Yeah, he certainly will. They've started to get at Switzerland now, and we've not seen too many opportunities for Switzerland to play those balls into the path of Bril Mbolo, who is the chosen man up front for Switzerland. In tournaments gone by, it's usually been Haris Seferovic that's had the starting berth, but Murat Yakin going with the younger, the fresher legs of Embolo. Ball played down the line now. Vargas has made a run. Vargas turns the ball into the box, and that was a really good pass by Ruben Vargas, which should have been a good pass. I think Embolo maybe could have gambled there. I mean, there's an argument to say that Vargas should have got his head up and he rushed the ball in, but I think it was the right idea from the winger.
Oh, it is. I think that in that occasion, Embolo just has to look up a little bit quicker, perhaps, and as you say, gamble on that ball being where he would like to see it put across. But it's these little moments for Switzerland. They've got to try and use them, because sooner or later there is going to be a more clear-cut pass into that Swiss box, and then it really could be very difficult for them to come back from that.
Sommer coming outside of his box, and Granit Xhaka will receive it on the half turn. He's happy to play almost the quarterback role for Switzerland. He's had a superb season for Arsenal, as has everyone in the Gunners squad. Brazil coming through midfield now. Here is Paqueta. He's overran that. He runs into trouble in the form of Elvedi. Thought the referee was going to blow for a free kick there, and he chose not to. Switzerland clear it forward from Jan Sommer, chested down by Militao, and then Rafinha will roll it back to Thiago Silva. Chance now for Brazil to attack down the left-hand side with Vinicius Junior. Here is Casemiro, receives it around about 30 yards from goal. He plays it forward, tried to play it quickly into Paqueta's feet, but it went beyond him. Just a few lackadaisical passes from Brazil as Vidma curls one forward. Nice spinning turn by Alexandro, and Brazil have the ball in midfield now. Casemiro once again. Here is Marquinhos. Richarlison tries to backheel it into the path of Fred. Switzerland look to try and come forward now, and Embolo playing with his back to goal. He's brought down. That's going to be another free kick for Switzerland, and Breel Embolo is going to play a vital role in winning Switzerland those free kicks. A little bit late and clumsy once again from Thiago Silva.
Yeah, as I say, that probably on its own isn't enough for a booking, but if he has 2 or 3 of those in short succession, that might get the referee a little bit more interested. And so we can see now the well, they thought about taking it quickly as Switzerland. They just the second option is to try and go back towards Elvedi and just hold things up. They don't want to give the ball away too easily here, Switzerland, but they do have to have a plan of actually trying to get forward as well.
Elvedi now with Remo Freuler. Akanji now. A bit like Switzerland with Brazil in terms of the pressing. I don't think Brazil necessarily need to go hell for leather on Switzerland. They're not technically as accomplished a side as Brazil. Here comes Elvedi now, approaching the halfway line. Wants an option, gets a short one there in Jibril Sow. He's going to be playing the closest to Breel Embolo, playing that support striker role almost, but he just dropped back into midfield then. Sommer now forward for Akanji. And this is a controlled, sustained piece of possession from Switzerland. Well, we are at the quarter-way stage now of this first half. Brazil 0, Switzerland 0. Will be Paul to take us through to half-time.
Thank you very much, Dan. And it's Rodriguez bringing the ball forward. He finds Sow at the edge of the area, looking to try and thread that ball through towards Vargas. Cleared back into midfield, but Switzerland have plenty of players forward in this attack. They can try and get this on the overlap to Rodriguez. That's exactly where the ball has gone. Being closely watched there by Rafinha, who's come back to the edge of his own box. Vargas's ball in is just a bit low. Clipped away by Thiago Silva. Second ball going back into the penalty area. But this is well marshalled here by Eder Militao, and Thiago Silva now just giving that a bit more distance, clearing that out for a throw. Slightly frustrated look on his face there, because Switzerland did have a few players forward there. We could see Tite once again just trying to alter something tactically there from the touchline. And it is a Switzerland throw down the left-hand side. Rodriguez going back towards Elvedi. Gladbach defender squared towards Akanji. Stepping forward, you can see Brazil. I've got quite a high offside line. They don't want to give Embolo too much space to run into. So Switzerland just forced to go back in towards their own half again. See that once again Brazil have got these 2 banks of players just trying to narrow things down here for Switzerland, as Embolo has the ball on the right-hand side. He was dispossessed. Second chance here now for Freuler. It skips past 2 players. Great run from Freuler. Breaks into the box. He's challenged just at the edge of the 6-yard box. A couple of Swiss players turned back to our referee. I think he just waved it away. I don't think there was much of a foul there, and in the end, the free kick is given against Freuler as he tries to win the ball back. But yeah, the Nottingham Forest man, they're really putting off a bit of skill.
Yeah, really good play that from Remo Freuler, and that's one of the problems for Brazil, is that they left those gaps for him and he looked to exploit them. It had to be a well-timed challenge, and it was, and Switzerland unfortunately couldn't take advantage there. But this has been a very even 25.5 minutes so far. I think Brazil have probably had a little bit more in terms of possession and in terms of making, attacking moves and attacking play, but no real chances yet for either side, and I think Switzerland will be happy so far, probably the happier of the two teams.
Well, this is probably going more to their plan right now than it would have been to Brazil's. I think Switzerland would have liked to have had an effort on goal, but the fact that they've restricted Brazil to a couple of dangerous crosses and not much else after 26 minutes, I think they'll be very pleased with that. And Brazil again making a bit of a mess of playing out from the back here until Casemiro steps forward and just takes that ball away from Freuler. Spins away from a couple of challenges, goes square now towards Paqueta. Plays it up towards the halfway line. Fred with a quick sweeping ball down the left-hand side to look for Vinicius Junior. Being stood up here by Widmer. Goes down. Isn't going to get a free kick, even though I think he was expecting one. Gets up and then gives a free kick away himself. No, he doesn't, says the referee. I thought there might have been a foul there, but we play on. And it's Fred bringing the ball forward now for Brazil. Leaves it for Paqueta. Over towards the right-hand side. Rafinha with that teasing left-footed ball. It's a great cross, and it's a save from Jan Sommer. Vinicius Junior almost had too much time for that. I think he probably could have taken a touch and really smashed that towards goal, but he hits it first time and he forces Sommer into a good save. What
a cross that is from Rafinha, and there's just no tracking there of Vinicius Junior's run. It looks like, yeah, it's Rida who falls asleep. I don't know where Sylvain Widmer was either, but a really good opportunity, and he was watching the ball come over and just didn't quite get the contact right, but Brazil have a corner.
Well, we've not seen much of Rafinha in this game with crosses like that. We need to see more of him as the ball is whipped in by Rafinha, cleared towards the edge of the area, second ball pumped back into the box, and Mbola very nearly gave away a penalty there, crashing into Vinicius Junior, but he tries to get a ball in, which is quickly cleared. Bouncing at the edge of the Swiss penalty area, back heel towards the box. But Rodriguez is here now for Switzerland, and he clears it down the left-hand side. Kept in play though by Brazil. Has it been? No, I think it's gone out of play in the end. It's going to be a throw to Switzerland. But Jan Sommer, first time he's really been called into action. We're seeing this delicious ball in from Rafinha again. Loads of curl on that one. And Vinicius Junior just doesn't quite get the contact. If he'd have hit that properly with his instep, then that would have been a glorious World Cup goal, I think.
Yeah, I think it would. He just hits it and it bounces on the ground before Sommer makes the save. It takes some of the pace off the ball, and in the end it's probably a straightforward save because Sommer's covering his near post, and that's where the ball was angled towards. But really good combination work between Rafinha and Vinicius Junior, one winger to another, and Brazil need more of that.
Well, Brazil nearly on the attack again as a loose ball was played through towards Richarlison. Now a free kick's been given against Granit Xhaka there. Just being told, actually lip read the referee, just saying, oi, just be careful. So we can see there it was Rafinha turning. It's Vargas who actually committed the foul, but then Xhaka booting the ball away. And I think there was a bit of a suggestion that he was almost trying to catch Rafinha with that ball that he was booting away.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that is the case or not. I mean, Granit Xhaka is...
You wouldn't put it past him, would
you? Yeah,
you?
he's familiar with referees, shall we say, so it might be a little bit of the dark arts creeping in, but nothing's come of it, and no booking given.
No, absolutely, and as I say, perhaps hoping that maybe Rafinha would take the bait, but he actually took it quite calmly. Just had a bit of a shout at Granit Xhaka, but not much more than that. Brazil now back in possession, deep inside their own half here with Thiago Silva. Square to Eder Militao. Closed down here by Vargas. Just getting that a little bit more difficult now in the last 10 minutes or so for Switzerland to hold on to the ball for any length of time, as looking up at potentially a long ball there, Marquinhos. Switzerland still trying to play quite a high offside line, restricting what Brazil are going to do. It's a ball down the left here for Alexandro to chase, but that one's been held up in midfield. Paqueta trying to restart things here for Brazil, going back inside his own half now. Casemiro square to Thiago Silva. So Thiago once again, you can see just the way that these defensive players for Brazil, they are looking up, perhaps trying to pick out Richarlison. And there he is again, just trying to get behind the Swiss line. Going to have to watch that offside if the long ball does go over the top. Back with Marquinhos again. Well, him and Thiago Silva are almost like midfielders anyway in terms of how they can stay on the ball. It's back on the right-hand side here now with Rafinha. Trying to dance away from trouble here. Holds the ball up and gets it back here. And it goes for goal, does Rafinha. It's straight down the middle. An easy save for Jan Sommer. But it is a shot on target, that's without a doubt. And it's a decent effort from Rafinha. He really does put his laces through it. Never really gets the goal to trouble the goalkeeper.
No, it was never far enough in either corner. It was straight down the middle. But at least what Brazil are doing is making Sommer do some work now, just testing his handling, because you never know with powerful shots like that from range. Keepers can sometimes spill them, and then players can rush in. So it's good from Brazil. Nice link-up play down the right-hand side again, and Rafinha's becoming more of an important figure in this game.
He is, as Remo Freuler there, bundling into a very important Brazilian player in Richarlison. And I think there was a little bit of intent there from Freuler. I think he just wants to draw. And Richarlison, I tell you what, he gets a shin guard to the face there as well, as Xhaka was stood right next to where Richarlison and Freuler were hitting the deck. But Richarlison quickly picks himself up. Brazil have taken a short free kick with Marquinhos towards Alexandro, trying a ball in from deep here. Richarlison does head it on. Rodriguez keeps it in play, which actually leaves the ball here for Rafinha down the right-hand side. Goes back to Eder Militao. Fred's ahead of Rafinha if he wanted to use an overlap, but Brazil just quite happy to sit in midfield on this occasion. Marquinhos stepping forward. Alexandro now on the left-hand side. Back in towards Marquinhos. Plenty of movements ahead of him, but you can see Switzerland really are very rigid in terms of their formation. They're making it very difficult for Brazil to get closer towards the penalty area. That's why Brazil are going to have a little bit more creativity in what they're doing, as Fred finds Rafinha right-hand edge of the penalty area, back towards Casemiro. Now a chance here for Sandro over on the left-hand side, back in towards Eder Militao. It's a quick exchange of passes now from Brazil. Haven't actually gained that much territory. It's a good 15 or 20 passes now, and they're still about 40 yards out. Now it just starts to open up in front of the penalty area for them. An attempted 1-2 there at the edge of the area. Doesn't quite come off. And a long ball now played up towards Breland Bolo, but he's not able to get on to the end of that. He was dispossessed, and it's back with Alisson.
Yeah, Switzerland really struggling to get on the ball now, and Brazil are playing some nice stuff. Maybe it just needs to be a little bit quicker, taking a few too many touches in midfield. It's pumped up now towards Vinicius Junior, and Brazil can try again over on the far side. But Brazil definitely need to start utilising the flanks. I fancy Rafinha and Vinicius Junior against the Switzerland fullbacks all day long.
Well, absolutely, I would agree with that. I think that's why they've got to try and keep that shape and not give them the space to actually use that pace that they can get past the fullbacks. As Switzerland very briefly got into the Brazil half. But I say very briefly, it's only a couple of passes, and Brazil are back in possession again now with Thiago Silva. Head now to Fred. Paqueta now spots Vinicius Junior, and Widmer was just a bit further away from him this time, but that's because Widmer trusted his defensive teammates to play an offside, which worked perfectly on that occasion. You can see that Vinicius Junior, not much in it, but the decision I think is correct.
Yeah, it's a marginal one, but I think you're right, it's probably correct. From the assistant referee, we've seen the offside flag have a bearing on a number of games with the VAR and the semi-automated technology, and well, with the pace that Brazil have got, Switzerland might be caught in terms of the offside trap.
Well, you mentioned the VAR. I mean, it's almost like a starting 11 of referees for every game in this tournament, isn't it? When you think of all the additional ones that they've got the 3 officials that we always have on the pitch, a 4th official, a reserve 4th official, and I think they've got something like 5 or 6 in total working in the VAR studio. So it still makes you wonder how some of the decisions have taken as long as they have, but really do want to make sure that they get it right. And in fairness, there haven't been too many controversies in this World Cup. There have been a couple of questionable decisions here and there, but I think overall they're getting the major decisions right.
Yeah, and there's no real excuse if you've got that technology, particularly with the offside flag, with the semi-automated technology, I mean, where you've got those cartoons and those CGI images where you can see the offside. It was the first game where, inside the first 3 minutes, that goal that was chalked off, and then you looked at that and you thought, yeah, it probably was right, even though you don't necessarily want to see goals like that.
It did take a little while for that graphic to come up, though. I do remember watching that opening game thinking, wow, this is going to be an interesting World Cup with the hosts conceding so early and then this decision, but it proved to be the right decision, and since then I think by and large, the sort of the majority of decisions have been correct. There was a bit of controversy in the early game today with our English referee Anthony Taylor calling full time just as South Korea won themselves a corner. In fairness, it was in the 11th minute of added time, and there were only supposed to be 10. So just break off from that to see a Hall of Fame of Brazilian stars there watching the game this afternoon, and, including Ronaldo and Roberto Carlos. And we saw a Brazilian fan having having Ronaldo's haircut from the 2002 World Cup final. I remember that final. It really was redemption for Ronaldo after the unbelievable scenes in France '98, where he was effectively forced to start because of Nike insisting that he's the biggest player in the World Cup, even though he clearly wasn't fit to do so. But here's Freuler now trying to break out for Switzerland, as we've got 36 minutes on the clock. It is still goalless. Just got a bit of a stalemate in central midfield in the last few minutes. You can credit Switzerland for that, because they are trying to restrict Brazil as much as they can. But here is Rafinha now inside to Fred, with options either side. He goes out towards Eder Militao on that right-hand side, back into Rafinha, who's stayed deep on this occasion. Paqueta now finding Vinicius Junior. Back to Alexandro. Here is Vinicius Junior again. It's good work, though, to win the ball back there from Rima, playing it up towards the halfway line, but that's been won back by Brazil almost immediately. That's the problem for Switzerland. They might be restricting Brazil, but even when they do win the ball back, they just don't have an outlet.
No, they don't, because Embolo's dropping deep as well. He has to drop deep because Brazil have always seemingly got a spare man. I mean, I don't suspect Murat Yakin will look to make changes at half-time, but definitely later in the game, someone like Shaqiri who can try and create something from nothing, because they don't really have much so far.
They don't, but here come Brazil now with a potential chance. A strike coming in at the edge of the area. It's a decent. Well, he's put his foot through that one as Eder Militao, but it's got a big deflection as soon as he's hit it, and there's no way of Switzerland avoiding the corner kick from there. So a chance now for Brazil from the set piece. Got a couple of players they can try and aim for. Haven't actually had too many free kicks or corners in this game so far, so this will be a good chance for Brazil to test this Swiss defence. It's going to be Rafinha, a left-footed outswinger, still waiting for his teammates to get into a position. Just 5 Brazilian players in the box. There are a couple waiting at the edge of the area, and maybe that's why, because it was a short corner from Rafinha to Fred. Played all the way back towards Alexandro, now back towards Rafinha, who's inside the penalty area, trying to work an opening here. Rafinha can't quite get across in first time. Now he lifts a ball into the 6-yard box. But because he was pretty much on the line when he was putting that ball in, he had to elevate it, and that made it a lot easier for Sommer. Yeah,
it was just one that was floated into Sommer's gloves. It's good defending that by Switzerland, who are trying to counter-attack now.
Well, they certainly are. Rodriguez brought the ball a long way forward, played it square to Granit Xhaka. And now it's Widmer joining the attack on the right-hand side. Back in towards Freuler. And again, they had a chance, Switzerland, to try and go up and get an early ball into the box. But the safe option of just holding possession inside the Brazil half is something they prefer for the time being. You'd like to think that in the second half, if it was still 0-0 with 15-20 minutes to go, they'd be a bit more expansive, maybe.
Yeah, perhaps so. I mean, I'm thinking that the entire game plan in terms of the group stage for Switzerland was get the win against Cameroon, anything against Brazil's a bonus, and then you can rely on the Serbia game as...
Well, meanwhile, here's a great chance as the ball comes in. Sorry there, Dan, but it was Rodriguez's ball into the box. He found Vargas. Vargas was trying to spin just at the edge of the 6-yard box. Just slight amount of contact there. There was never enough to give a penalty, but if Vargas could have just held onto the ball, he surely would have scored from that sort of distance.
Yeah, it was almost just played in a little bit too quickly, and Vargas did his best to try and turn in the area, but there were too many Brazil players around him. That's really the most attacking intent we've seen from Switzerland so far in the first half. Long ball played up to Vinicius Junior, is headed away by Sylvain Widmer. Some of the Brazil fans in attendance already seemingly praying with the 6 minutes of this first half to go, plus however much time added on we will get. I don't suspect we'll get too much, even though it's been a running theme of this tournament.
It certainly has. I mean, technically speaking, we should probably have about 15 minutes added to every half when you see how much time is lost. I'm not going to even say wasted. It's just the fact that when the ball goes out for a corner kick, it actually takes about 40 seconds to set everybody up before a corner kick is taken. And if you get 5 or 6 of them in one half, that's already a good few minutes lost. But certainly some of the time added on has been interesting. I think in one game there was almost half an hour added in the 2 halves. But as I say, there was a little bit of controversy in the earlier game today with South Korea and Ghana having 10 minutes added to their second half. And after 11 minutes of time added on, South Korea won a corner. They were hoping to take the corner and get a chance to make it 3-3, but Anthony Taylor called full time just as the corner kick was awarded, and the furious reaction of the South Korean players and their bench. Paolo Bento, the South Korean manager, got sent off after full time, so he's not actually going to be on the bench when his South Korean team play against his against Portugal, which will be their last game in the group. But here at Stadium 974 in Doha, we've got 5 minutes to go, and it's Switzerland trying to push forward down the right-hand side. It's Fabian Rieder who wins his side a throw, just knocking the ball off for Alexandro. And Sylvain Widmer, White's defender, for options here from this throw-on. It's Xhaka and Freuler just further back. It's gone to Xhaka. The pressure decides to go. Well, it's not a good ball from Xhaka in the end. It's probably a little bit too long there for Akani, and it wasn't quite long enough there for the goalkeeper Jan Sommer. But Akani does make up some yards here to try and keep Switzerland in possession. And the Man City man just calms things down. He brings the ball forward himself, and then switches play from right to left to pick out Rodriguez. And he's got Vargas on the overlap. This is better from Switzerland now. They've got players waiting inside the penalty area. If Vargas can pick out a pass. Now he goes to the edge of the area to find Rodriguez, and then Rodriguez's ball. That's a very heavy touch. Disappointing there, as now a chance for us, Brazil, to break forward down the left. Akani coming in, pointing to the ball. And the referee, I think, agrees with it, although Richarlison's reaction suggests he thought he might have been fouled. Yeah,
I thought it was a really good challenge, that, from Akanji, getting across. Richarlison looked like he was going to get there. We'll have another look now. I think he does get the ball before the man. There is a little bit of contact between Akanji and Richarlison, but it's a contact sport, and tackles like that, sometimes they do get blown up. The referee today has deemed that one a fair challenge, but those are the ones that annoy you as a fan when they are given as a foul, I think.
Yes, absolutely. It does sometimes, and it's also the fact that sometimes the referee takes a second or two to replay it in his head. You almost think as though the player's reaction to the challenge has swung it, rather than actually looking at what happened in the challenge itself. But on that occasion, Ivan Cisneros was happy with that, and Brazil now happy to have a bit of possession back after that little spell for Switzerland. Back with Eder Militao on the halfway line, and he goes square to Thiago Silva. Again, this is a theme we've seen for long spells in this first half. A lot of defensive midfield possession for Brazil, with Switzerland back as an 11 doing what they can to restrict access to their attacking players. But here is Paqueta now, and clip over the top, looking for the run of Vinicius Jr. headed away back into midfield now. Vargas with the header. It's a fight for it in midfield, but Brazil have the ball back here now. It's played back to Thiago Silva. Rafinha with a bit of space on the right-hand side. This goes square to Fred. And Rafinha again going back towards Thiago Silva, as he looks up, trying to pick out a potential option on that left-hand side. Prefers to go down the right here for Rafinha. Rafinha trying to take on Rodriguez. Vargas is back there as well. Rafinha still manages to get a ball in there. Didn't seem to be much space for the cross. It's almost like a little dink ball in there from Rafinha, but it's headed out for a corner. Yeah, it's a clever cross, that, from Rafinha. When he's got two markers around him, he's just got to try and dig the ball out, and he got the ball in between the two of them. A few Brazil players were making their way into the box. Well defended by Switzerland, but what a time to get the goal now if Brazil can. Yes, an in-swinger from Rafinha. It's a good one as well. Players jumping for that. Both teams saying it should be our ball. And I think it has been deemed to be a second corner. So another chance here for Rafinha. And that's what you want in that kind of situation. The ball really whipped in as... I'm just wondering if this is our TV pictures or if this is at the stadium. Yeah, the lights went out very briefly, or at least they got dimmed. I don't know if they got dimmer switches on the floodlights in Qatar, but it seemed like they did. But it looks like we should be okay to play on now, as Ivan Cisneros sees the funny side of the very brief power outage, or at least power reduction. You can finally see this second corner kick for Brazil now. Rafinha whipping it in towards the near post. Oh, that was almost a strike from Rafinha from a corner, and it pinballs inside the 6-yard area before it's cleared away back into midfield. A second ball pumped back in as Rafinha kept that in play. The Spitz players have their hands up saying it should be a goal kick. It is a goal kick, but Rafinha apparently shooting from a corner there. Yeah, I mean, you see quite a few players try that these days because they don't have anyone on the near post or the far post. So Jan Sommer had to be quick as a flash then. He punches it out, and
well, it comes off Embolo, so it pinballs around the box a little bit.
I tell you what, I don't want to be discourteous to someone, but I think he made that look better than what it was in terms of it. It was a good, very good corner from Rafinha, but I think he had time to deal with that a little better than what he did. Just a very flat punch inside his own 6-yard box. Just a minute of added time at the end of this first half. But here comes Switzerland now with an attack, and it's Embolo. Needed a better first touch there, really, to get past his man, but he'll be very happy with the consolation prize as Eder Militao knocks it out for a corner.
Yeah, I don't know if Embolo was maybe trying to look for the corner then as Militao comes across. Embolo knew that the momentum of the defender would take the ball out behind and into touch for that corner. So a great chance now for Switzerland to land a big sucker punch. I think set pieces might be the route for them to go down if they do want to try and break the deadlock, not just in this first half but throughout the game as well, because they can't take Brazil toe for toe because Brazil will win.
They will, absolutely, but here comes the corner kick now. It's played across the 6-yard box. It very nearly dropped to, I think it was, it looked like it might have been Elvedi waiting at the far post, but as that ball is cleared back into midfield, the referee Ivan Cisneros calls time on this first half at Stadium 974 in Doha. It is goalless between Brazil and Switzerland. Myself and Dan will be back for you in 15 minutes.
Paqueta has made way. He was one of the three midfielders, and Real Madrid's Rodrigo has come on as well. So a bit more El Clasico flair has been stamped on this game. No changes for Switzerland. There's no real need for them to change anything, as Brazil look to come forward in the very early stages of this second half. Vinicius Junior was caught offside, though. The flag went up early on. He just didn't quite time that run correctly. It's a good yard or two offside. So Brazil have got Alisson in goal, a back four of Militao, Marquinhos, Thiago Silva and Alexandro, Casemiro and Fred in midfield, with an attacking quartet really of Rodrigo, Vinicius Junior, Rafinha and Richarlison. Switzerland go with Sommer, Vidma, Akanji, Elvedi, Rodriguez, Freuler, Xhaka, Rieder, Sau, Vargas and Embolo, as Brazil now attack down the left-hand side, lifted into the box by Richarlison. It's headed away by Elvedi, up towards Embolo. He's brought down, he's won another free kick, doing a pretty thankless task today, but he's doing it with some decent effect. Myself, Dan McCarthy and Paul Shabakovic taking you through the rest of this second half, and I think we maybe want to see just that little bit more adventure from Brazil going forward.
I think so. I think the first half should be proof for them that Switzerland are going to be resolute. They're going to try and restrict what Brazil are going to do. But on 3 or 4 occasions, Switzerland got forward, and their first option was to try and hold possession rather than attack. So it is down to Brazil to try and break the deadlock in this game. And with this additional forward now on the pitch, does mean they've just got the two holder midfielders, the Manchester United pair of Casemiro and Fred. And whether Rodrigo joins Richarlison or plays in a number 10 role, it remains to be seen, but it just gives them another option up front.
Yep, certainly does, as coming forward are Switzerland down the far left-hand side, but it's gone out to play for a throw-in. Here is Elvedi, and on the turn is Freuler. Vargas tries to collect the ball as well. They are struggling really to zip passes around Switzerland, because Brazil are also defending well. They've not had a huge amount of defending to do, but they're getting to the ball, getting on the end of those second balls. But they've won another free kick, Switzerland, 3 minutes into the second half. The third of 4 World Cup matches taking place today. Portugal against Uruguay will complete the quartet. That's a 7 o'clock kickoff, and that, of course, available on this service, with Ricardo Rodriguez ready to take this free kick now. He's going to turn backwards and go to Nico Elvedi, and it might not set pulses raising, but if Switzerland get themselves a point, they certainly won't care, because then they'll be very much in the driving seat by the time they face Serbia on Friday, with Brazil set to face Cameroon in the final group stage match. Here is Sylvain Vidma now. It will be the final group stage match as well before the round of 16 gets underway at the weekend. It really has flown by, even though we're only a week and a half into it.
I mean, today's actually the last day of 4 games at 4 separate times, as you mentioned. From tomorrow, of course, it's the conclusion of each group, with 2 games being played at the same time, 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. UK time. And it really has flown by very quickly, all the talk, all the build-up, and that's why it's so important to start. If you're a player in the World Cup, you've got to start well, because as I say, before you know it, it could be all over very quickly. And I was hoping that perhaps we'd see a slightly quicker pace in some of the games, because the players have played 15, 20 games before this World Cup, as opposed to the usual 40 or 50. Yeah, and it's not really been as hot as everyone was anticipating. I didn't actually realise that all the stadiums were going to be air-conditioned. I thought that was discussed, and then they decided not to go ahead with it. But I think all but one of them have been air-conditioned. It was Japan, Costa Rica yesterday. I heard on the telly that one wasn't played at an air-conditioned ground. It was sunny as well, so they had to consider the old cooling breaks there. Brazil have won themselves a free kick down this near side, and the first yellow card of the game has been dished out to Fabian Rieder, who's playing as a right winger today. Just a little bit of an elbow in the face almost on Rodrigo. I don't know how intentional it is from Fabian Rieder, but Rodrigo's gone down, and he's got to be careful now. He does, yeah. Rieder does have to be careful. I mean, we've seen a couple of, maybe not cynical challenges, but a couple of strong, industrious challenges from both teams already, where the referees just issued warnings. I think on that occasion he must have felt as though Rieder was being a bit careless, but I'm not so sure he was doing that intentionally. He's only winning his second cap today, Fabian Rieder. He's 20 years old, still plays his football in Switzerland, so a bit of a rude awakening for him, as Rafinha works the ball now down the far side, tries to
pick out Fred, but Vargas gets there instead and he's able to clear the ball into touch. I suspect it won't be too long until Jeremy Shaqiri is introduced for Switzerland, maybe on the 60, 65 minutes when Switzerland feel like they've held Brazil long enough and they can look to try and turn to Shaqiri, because he is the definitive match winner in the Switzerland squad, I think.
He is. He's that something out of nothing player that you need in a game where you're not creating too many chances, you're not getting much attacking possession, but here come Brazil now through the middle.
Yeah, Brazil looking to try and break the deadlock. It's fed across now to the far side, and it's Rafinha once again puts an early ball in. It's not a good one. It's headed away by Granit Xhaka. Switzerland trying force a counter-attack. Djibril Sow is brought down, and a first yellow card has been shown to Brazil now, straight on the back of Fabian Rieder's booking. It's Fred who brought down Djibril Sow, just a late dangling leg, and Sow will always accept the invitation to go down to ground because Switzerland probably want to try and slow the pace somewhat rather than go hell for leather on the counter-attack. So that suits Switzerland, and Fred with a clumsy challenge in
It is, yeah, it's a dangling leg there from Fred. He didn't need to do it, but as you say, Switzerland will take that sort of a free kick, and the fact that now Fred has got to be careful on a yellow card as well. Switzerland will see now whether they can try and hold on to possession.
Here is Akanji coming over the halfway line. He's been tracked there by Rodrigo. Akanji gets it back, and he can square it simply now to Nico Elvedi. Here is Ricardo Rodriguez, and now with Vargas. Freuler's made a move forward from midfield. It's with Granit Xhaka now. Xhaka with a crossfield ball to Vidma. Vidma controls it. Right side of the box. Vidma gets the cross in, and it's not being cleared by Brazil. It comes out then to Akanji, who it was getting forward into... No, it wasn't Akanji. It was Djibril Sow, and then Brazil can't clear it, and that was almost... felt like it was played in slow motion then. The ball across from Xhaka was very good to Vidma, and Brazil just didn't clear it.
Exactly the words. It was like it was played in slow motion because the ball was played out to the right-hand side. Vidma had nobody within 5 square yards of him, and suddenly the Brazil players thought, actually, there's no offside, there's no free kick, and they need to deal with the cross coming into the box. But, yeah, just a slightly better touch in the penalty area, and Switzerland might have had some more joy out of that.
Here comes Akanji now. Looking for a short option, forward to Sow, tries to back heel it to Vidma, and Vidma does very well there to battle and win the ball back, and it's back in the middle now for Switzerland. Xhaka forward to Freuler. Here is Mbolo. It's with Vargas on the far side. Vargas will shoot, he'll curl it, goes behind for a corner, and all of a sudden Switzerland look like they're getting back into this game.
Whether it's a case of suddenly Switzerland believing in themselves and just pushing forward, or perhaps Brazil just suddenly getting a bit nervous and backing away a little bit, but all of a sudden that midfield area has just become that little bit more accessible now for Switzerland, and all of a sudden they can get players into the box now. A good corner kick here. We saw a very disappointing corner kick from Vargas in the first half. This has got to be a bit better from him now.
Yeah, it's almost like those 2 yellow cards have awoken Switzerland to the possibility of victory as the corner comes in from Vargas. It's punched away by Alisson, headed back into the mix, and then flicked on by Akanji. Alisson will gather that one with a certain amount of ease, and it is Alisson who is the favoured goalkeeper for Brazil. Manchester City fans might be wondering where Ederson is. He's on the bench, so that's a pretty world-class goalkeeping lineup if there ever was one. Brazil try and play the ball forward quickly into the box. It's not going to reach Richarlison, and it's cleared by Switzerland.
I don't know, if I was to play top trumps with those 2 goalkeepers, I probably would say that Ederson just about shades it maybe, but I suppose on another day, it's not as if Alisson's a bad goalkeeper. I just think that Ederson possibly is just slightly better.
Yeah, I think Ederson in some senses has almost redefined what a goalkeeper can do with the distribution, and the fact that if he was to put on an outfield jersey, he'd probably look comfortable in midfield.
Yeah,
so he is that kind of player, that modern goalkeeper. We are potentially going to get some Switzerland changes, or at least one change. Renato Steffen was getting ready on the bench, so Shaqiri not the man yet that Switzerland are going to turn to. I don't know if he's carrying a slight injury or not coming into this game, so Murat Yakin is the man who gets paid to make the decisions, and so far, Brazil 0, Switzerland 0 is a point he'd gratefully accept.
He certainly would. I think whether it's for club or country, Shaqiri rarely plays a full 90 minutes, does he? He'll start a game and then be replaced, or he'll come on at the end of a game to try and win it for his side, but it may well be that they're just trying to conserve him a little bit.
Ball played forward quickly back to Alisson, and he had to get rid of that quicker. Embolo was there to make the challenge. It's dropped now for Casemiro, who can bring the ball forward, but a really awkward moment. Can that spark Brazil into life? Maybe it can. It's Vinicius Junior coming into the box. Brilliant cross, and Richarlison sticks a leg out. He can't quite get there. We're talking millimetres. We're talking Gascoigne Euro 1996. Fantastic ball played in by Vinicius Junior, and I thought Richarlison was going to apply the finish.
You mentioned Gascoigne. I was jumping up and down in my house when that ball was put into Gascoigne. I thought he'd score, but he only just missed it. We could see Richarlison. He wasn't too far away at all there. And seconds earlier, Breel Embolo wasn't too far away from embarrassing goalkeeper Alisson either. Alisson did well to at least get enough on that to try and get a clearance away. But Brazil are getting ready to make another substitution, and it looks like it's Newcastle's Bruno Guimaraes is getting ready to come on.
Yeah, and a player for how well he's been playing for Newcastle in midfield. Might feel himself a little bit unfortunate not to be starting for Brazil. He's been one of well, he wasn't bought during the summer, one of the buys of 2022, we can call him. He's been absolutely outstanding for the Magpies and has helped them in their renaissance up the Premier League table as Brazil come forward now. Powerful run this from Rodrigo. He's still going, but he carries it a little bit too far. All Vidma can do, though, is play the ball out for a throw-in, and 57 minutes on the clock. Brazil starting to turn the pace up. Here is Alexandro, who gets the ball from the throw-in. Doesn't do much with it, but Brazil get themselves another throw-in just a little bit further back. Guimaraes is about to come on. That's loose, though, at the back from Brazil, and there's no question that this game is starting to really open up as far as both sides are concerned. The first change then for Brazil is, second change I should say, sees Fred come off, and no real surprises there considering that he has just been yellow carded. So Bruno Guimaraes comes on in his place, probably gives it a bit more from an attacking standpoint. A couple of changes now coming for Switzerland as well. Edmilson Fernandez is coming on for his 23rd cap. He's going to replace Ruben Vargas on this left-hand side, or he might not go to the left. It might be a slight rejig in terms of shape. Fabian Rieder coming off as well, and Renato Stefan coming on in his place. So we'll wait and see how those changes affect Switzerland going forward, but Fernandez and Stefan on. Maybe it's simply a case of wanting to try and freshen things up because the game is starting to get that bit more stretched.
It is, yeah. We're just starting to see both sides being slightly stretched in defence, and it may well be that Murray Yakin is just trying to sort of foresee this, and rather than making a change after 70 minutes, he's making a change even before the hour mark.
Switzerland now in possession. It's with Xhaka. Xhaka chips the ball across, and Fernandez is taking up a position over on that left-hand side. He's got the number 2 shirt on, so a little bit unusual for a wide man, but Fernandez will play on that flank, and it looks as though Renato Stefan is going to play on the right side as well. 31 years old, and he's one of a smattering of players in the Switzerland squad who still plays his football in his home country for Lugano, winning his 29th cap. So it's not two inexperienced players coming on, it's players that have been around the block in terms of international football at least. On the turn, receiving it is Bruno Guimaraes, and not a great first introduction. He gives the ball away. It's now picked up by Stefan on this near side. Stefan has got options ahead of him. Laid off now to Fernandez. It's shot now by Djibril Sow. He could have played it to his left for Breel Embolo, who was in lots of space. Brazil have now given it away, and it's a chance for Sow to attack down the left-hand side. Sow pulls it back for Fernandez. Fernandez, he's going to go for the shot. He was probably a little bit late in shooting as well. The block is made, and out into touch for a throw-in on the hour mark.
Well, I almost got confused by seeing that for a second, because there were suddenly so many Swiss players inside the penalty area. They almost had too many, and the shot that came in the end was a tame effort. They just sort of almost laboured to actually get the ball away. But where were the Brazilian defence then?
Yeah, and I'm surprised as well the ball wasn't fizzed out to Embolo quicker, because he was in so much space, and as the man who scored the goal against Cameroon, Switzerland's only goal so far, you'd feel that he'll be full of confidence. Even though it was a goal from close range, he was in the right place at the right time to score it. But now this game is beginning to heat up and really get lively. Richarlison was just brought down there by Manuel Akanji, and Brazil take the free kick. And, well, 15 minutes into the second half, and I didn't expect to think that Brazil might want to slow the pace down somewhat. They want to try and go forward on the kill, but Switzerland have just hit them on the counter-attack a few occasions now. Ball played forward by Marquinhos. It's really well controlled by Vinicius Junior. Two Switzerland players have come across to try and mark him. Alex Sandro's going to make the overlap. Sandro plays the ball in low. Will it drop for Rodrigo? Not quite. Switzerland are there to clear it. A diving challenge by Alex Sandro sees the ball go out of play for a throw-in. It was a magnificent first touch by Vinicius Junior there, but Switzerland, to their credit, have defended so well, and they've played now 150 minutes of tournament football, and they haven't conceded yet.
They haven't conceded, and barring that really good ball across to Richarlison and a couple of half chances in the first half, they haven't really looked like conceding in this game. But so they have to be careful, because we know with Brazil, there's always that one ball, that one cross, that one bit of skill that can suddenly open the game up.
It could be here now, but the ball was lifted over into the box towards the run of Rafinha, but he couldn't get there in time. It's good defending by Switzerland, and maybe there's just a sense that Tite on the Brazil bench might be getting a little bit frustrated, the fact that they haven't managed to yet break down Switzerland, but there is still plenty of time, and he does still have plenty of options. Let's not forget there's a plethora of Premier League players on the bench, particularly attack-wise, with Gabriel Jesus, who we mentioned in the first half, Anthony, who started the season at Manchester United really strongly, and Gabriel Martinelli likewise at Arsenal. Pedro of Flamengo is another striking option too.
I mean, it's, compared to other international managers, Tite's got a headache that most international managers don't have. He actually has too many good forwards, and it's a case of actually trying to balance out who gets to start, who gets to come off the bench. But it's a good headache to have, I think.
Yeah, it's obviously a much better headache than not having enough options and looking to your bench, as some nations will, or some managers of certain nations will do. They'll see that their team aren't performing, they'll turn to the bench, and then they'll just quickly turn back to the 11 and say, give me more, because these lads, no disrespect, probably aren't going to give what you can give.
The best goal threat is already out there on the pitch, absolutely right. But with Brazil, there's never that issue. They've always got someone else that can come on, someone else that's desperate for that starting berth in the next game as well.
Thiago Silva forward, and then Casemiro was just brought down there by Stefan, but Brazil retain possession, so no need for the referee to give a free kick. Here is Bruno Guimaraes, who's struggled to get into the game so far. It's a couple of loose touches from him, but Brazil somehow can come away with the ball, and Vinicius Junior is in loads of space down the left-hand side of the box. It's one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and Brazil have taken the lead, and it's the first real defensive error that Switzerland have made. Vidma slid in, trying desperately to win the ball back. He didn't get there. Vinicius Junior took it around him, and then it was a case of whether he could keep his composure up against Jan Sommer, and he finishes nicely into the far corner.
Look at the reaction from the Brazilian bench. I mean, you've got sub-goalkeepers diving on the goal scorer here. This is just a goal in a group game, but look how much it means to the Brazil players, because they know they've been in a game here. They know how difficult it's been. Now, the question is, when the ball is played to Vinicius Junior, is he offside? Well, I don't think he is. He may have been at the very beginning of the move, but then because Switzerland lost the ball, their formation fell apart, their offside trap fell apart, and once Vinicius Junior breaks into the box, he's got so much time. He's right-footed, playing from the left-hand side, and he knows he's going to curl that pass somewhere into the back of the net.
Yeah, there was just a split second when he was bearing down on goal that I thought he'd maybe taken one touch too many. It wasn't Vidma that came across, by the way. It was Elvedi who tried to slide in and desperately win the ball back, to no avail. It's Casemiro that plays the ball to Vinicius Junior, and then the Real Madrid man does the rest, filling in admirably for Neymar as Brazil's main man today. And those Brazilian fans who've made the very long trip from South America to Qatar are celebrating, or they were celebrating. We've got a VAR check for something.
Well, the angle that we saw from our first replay was sort of behind Vinicius Junior, so we couldn't see the exact line, but it looked to me as though everything was fine when the ball was played to him when he actually got put through. But the referee is confirmed. Well, now offside. That does surprise both of us, I think, Dan, because certainly didn't look to me as though Vinicius was offside, but we'll have to wait another minute or so for the graphic to come up.
Yeah, I'm absolutely stunned, because I didn't really see any evidence of him being offside, or it might not even be Vinicius Junior. It might be Casemiro who had the touch before he laid the ball off. So no goal for Brazil, and wouldn't it be ironic if Switzerland come down the other end? Well, Renato Steffen fired a ball towards the near post, but it was well gathered there by Alisson. I'm really looking forward to seeing why this goal was ruled out and seeing the graphic on the screen that we've got, because it didn't look like offside at any glance, really. So Brazil have got to try and dust themselves down and come forward again. It will give them confidence, at least, that they can break Switzerland down and try and wear their opponents away. But it's going to be real frustration.
It will be frustration, and I know most of us commentators and football fans get very frustrated with those pencil-thin lines we see in the Premier League for offsides. But at least the good thing about them is that they come up fairly quickly. Here we've played over a minute now since the goal was disallowed, and we still don't really know where the offside was.
No, we don't. So we are waiting patiently for it. I mean, I'm sure there's probably no mistake, and even if it is very slight, there probably will be an offside in there. But it's particularly for the viewers and for the fans inside the stadium as well. Do they get the graphic coming up on the screen? They probably don't. Otherwise, we maybe have had it ourselves by now. So it's just that.
They probably see it when we do, I think, which is
yeah.
It's
that kind of disrespect of the fans, really, leaving them in the lurch, not telling them why exactly the goal has been chalked off. But chalked off it has been. Vinicius Junior thought he got his first World Cup goal for Brazil, but they're still frustrated, and now a free kick has been given away by Brazil. It's Casemiro who's in dialogue with the referee.
Now, the player who's been shown us to be offside is Richarlison. Yes, now this makes sense. Richarlison was coming back from an offside position when he helped to keep Brazil in possession, and then his ball was swept out towards the left-hand side. So actually, Richarlison was quite a long way offside, but he was so far away from the play when Vinicius Junior got the ball that we didn't even consider that he could have been the one offside.
Yeah, and you can understand why that goal has been ruled out now, even though it's incredibly frustrating. But Richarlison was recovering from an offside position. Here come Brazil now down the same flank where they thought they'd scored. It's Vinicius Junior, pacey burst to try and get away from Manuel Akanji, who's conceded a free kick right on the edge of the area. So a big opportunity to get a ball swung into the area. It's not a shooting on goal opportunity, I don't think, unless they want to try something really audacious. It's right on the left-hand side. We have passed the three-quarter-way mark of this game, and it's really livening up now. It's going to be Paul to take us through to full time.
Thank you very much, Dan. Yes, so I like our referee though, Ivan Cisneros. I like the fact that he's quite approachable. When the players are sort of joking with him, he seems to be quite laid back, and when the players are getting in his face, he gets back and has a go at them as well. And Akanji, of course, unhappy with that decision. I mean, we know that there's such a thing as shoulder-to-shoulder. Referees do allow some physicality, but Vinicius Junior running at such pace, if you're coming in from behind and trying to get contact with him, he's always going to go down in that situation, and it was an easy decision for the referee. But now this is a great chance for Brazil. It's only a yard or two away from the edge of the area, and plenty of options here as this ball is going to be whipped in by Rafinha. Good header away though by Akanji. He makes up for his mistake after he gave the free kick away. Hooked back in towards the danger area there by Alexandro. And real pressure there to try and keep Brazil in possession. It's played back to Alexandro. That's really good work from Rodrigo to get the ball across to him, and then it's pumped back into the penalty area, headed away, and it's going to be out for a goal kick after all of that. So Switzerland, another potentially sticky moment averted there. Yeah,
really good defending again by Switzerland, and they're very disciplined when those balls come into the box. I think both Akanji and Elvedi have played really well today. It's given away by Widmer, though.
Well, that's poor from a goal kick. Widmer gives it away at the edge of his own box. Switzerland partially clear it back into midfield, but Brazil come back straight away here with Alexandro. His ball into the box, cut out there by Steffen, played back into midfield, and now Brilon Bolo dropping deep, trying to keep Switzerland in possession. He crosses the half-line and does really well there, Bolo, and then picks out a teammate on the left-hand side in Edmilson Fernandez, played back into midfield, and now Switzerland just quite happy to hold on to the ball here with Widmer down the right-hand side to Steffen, back into Freuler. Switzerland just quite intentionally slowing things down here. They are also preparing a substitution, and it is looks like it's going to be Michael Abisher who's going to be coming on, the 25-year-old who plays his club football for Bologna. So still no sign of Shaqiri when we're on to 20 minutes to go now, 71 minutes played. Independent, unofficial off-tube studio commentary. It is goalless between Brazil and Switzerland, but a great long ball to pick out Vinicius Junior down the left-hand side. He finds Richarlison. Richarlison, though, was well marked, very well marked there. A great challenge from Elvedi. Ball up towards the halfway line. It's held up here by Stefan. And I think, although there have been a couple of close moments, I think to say that Switzerland are hanging on is probably a bit unfair because they actually are putting in a very good defensive performance here.
Yeah, I think if you were to look at it objectively, you'd say it's maybe 70-30 in terms of Brazil having the threatening efforts at goal. But it's not as if it's been completely one-sided attack versus defence. Switzerland have produced some decent moments of quality of their own, just not often enough, and Brazil have dealt with them really well. I know we've praised the Switzerland defence, but I think Brazil's defence has been very solid too, as Michael Abisher is about to come on after this attack comes to its conclusion.
Absolutely. The only time the Brazil defence looked rocked really was that very short spell where they gave the ball away a couple of times. They looked a little bit overrun, but other than that, they have been very well organised. As Richarlison tries to turn at the edge of the Swiss penalty area. Ricardo Rodriguez doing enough just to dispossess him. A clearance then from Jan Sommer up towards the halfway line, but Brazil straight back in possession here now with Eder Militao. Marquinhos then back towards the right-hand side with a couple of options here for Rafinha. And one of these is Rodrigo. He gets to the edge of the area, rides the first challenge, fires one into the 6-yard box. He can only find Nico Elvedi, who deflects it out, I should say, for a throw. Double attacking change here for Brazil. We're going to see Gabriel Jesus and Anthony, the two sides of Manchester. Previously, of course, I do beg your pardon, Jesus, an Arsenal player now, but Jesus and Anthony, the two players getting ready to come on, and it's going to be Richarlison that gets the hook.
Yeah, he's had a fairly quiet game, I think, as Richarlison. I've been more impressed with Vinicius Junior and Rafinha, though I would suspect that
Rafinha's the other one.
Yeah, Rafinha, he was probably going to be the one to come off over Vinicius Junior. So Jesus will add a bit more of an attacking dimension, if you like. He is more of a natural centre forward than Richarlison, who's never been an out-and-out number 9. So that's probably what Tite's pinning his hopes upon, for one chance to drop to Jesus, and maybe he can finish it.
Well, he might be getting this chance almost immediately. A ball whipped in from the left-hand side. Doesn't quite reach Jesus, and it is cleared. I did feel sorry for Jesus at Man City last season, where Pep Guardiola said, well, we haven't got a number 9 this season. You're sort of thinking, well, Jesus has got the number 9 on his shirt, and he is actually a striker. But for whatever reason, Guardiola just didn't fancy him as the regular starting forward. But you've got to say he's made a great start at Arsenal. And he'll be hoping to make an impact this evening as well. But the ball just gets away from Breland Bolo. Switzerland just can't make it stick in midfield for the time being. They're defending well, but they can't play out of their own half for the time being. Here come Brazil again now as Vinicius Junior trying to get to his pace to get away from Sylvain Vidme. But that's another great challenge from the Mainz man. He knows he's not going to win a sprint with Vinicius Junior, so he's got to use all his footballing now, so he did that. Yeah,
he's almost got to drop back a little bit because he knows Vinicius Junior will have that advantage in terms of pace. He's got to use his body well, and there's been a few awkward moments, I think, for Sylvain Vidme so far, but he can point to the scoreline and say it's 0-0 and say that he's had a near flawless game. I still think Vinicius Junior will fancy his chances up against Vidme, and he's just conceded a free kick now, so there are going to be a few more awkward moments, I think, coming for Vidme. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get booked, actually, because there's been a few challenges he's made now.
Yeah, well, it's a double change. We mentioned Michael Abisher was getting ready to come on. Also, the experienced forward, Haris Seferovic, is getting ready to come on as well. Seferovic playing his club football for Galatasaray. Jibril Sow is the man who is getting the hook, as is Breland Bolo. So it looks like it's going to be Sow to be replaced by Abisher and Embolo to be replaced by Seferovic.
You know, I did have to look a few minutes ago when I saw that Abisher was coming on to try and make sure that Shaqiri was actually on the bench and he's not carrying a knock. Well, he is named among the substitutes. I can only think there must be a slight injury there, and Murat Yakin doesn't want to try and aggravate that too much, or whether he's just looking ahead purely to the Serbia game, one where he can point to Shaqiri and say, that's the one you're going to do damage in. Quite conservative substitutions, that, from Switzerland, but if they hold on and get the point, it's a really good result for them.
It is. I think at the end of the day, if they do end up drawing this 0-0, and that chance has just increased slightly by that wasted free kick from Brazil. There's no point in having Jesus or anybody else in the box if a ball from Rodrigo's got that much whip on it. It's sailed over Jan Sommer's crossbar, at least 5 yards over his crossbar, so it was completely overhit. But Switzerland, to their credit, they still play out from the back despite plenty of Brazil players pressing at the edge of the area. And coming out now is Kanji, looks up, thought about playing it long, does fire a ball up, which is chested down by Abisha down towards Sylvain Widmer. Widmer's ball down the right-hand side, just a little bit too high for Stefan, headed back into midfield. That's good play there from Anthony and Guimaraes to keep Brazil in possession. So here is Guimaraes again now. And he plays a long ball, looking for the run of Anthony down that right-hand side as Brazil look for Rodriguez, I should say, with a good header away back into midfield. This is going to be Switzerland pretty much just sat back and defending now until the end of the game.
Yeah, I'd imagine they would. I don't think they're going to do too much attacking from now until the end of the game. They might have to try and rely on a Brazil mistake, because as Brazil get a bit more desperate, they might be liable to leave a few gaps in midfield, and Switzerland will look to try and hammer them that way. But in terms of getting on the ball and popping it around, it's going to be all Brazil from now until full time.
I think it will be, as Anthony now down the right-hand side with Bruno Guimaraes going back towards the halfway line. Held up here by Thiago Silva. Again, Switzerland just trying to push a little bit higher. They don't want to sit too deep, but again, if they start pressing too high up the field, then of course that just means that they've got to have a perfect offside line every time with all this pace in the Brazil attack. To get it wrong just once, that really would put them in trouble. As we saw, of course, with them conceding, although the goal was disallowed, rightfully so in the end, for an offside. A long ball played towards Gabriel Jesus. The attempted pass there from Alex Sandro. Got to remember that pretty much all four of Brazil's defenders are good enough to be midfielders, and they are playing as midfielders now because they haven't got any work in defence. Yeah, they're
going to be pushed higher up the field, and maybe that's why it's a little bit strange that Embolo was brought off, because he can stretch the Brazil defenders. Seferovic doesn't have that pace. He'll work hard still. He'll try and get in around the back, but he's just giving the ball away, trying to hold it up. Anthony making a quick burst down the far side. Another free kick conceded, and I suspect we're going to see quite a lot of free kicks as Anthony held the imaginary card up, wanting Rodriguez to be booked for that challenge.
Well, there was a very brief period across international football where that was supposed to guarantee you a yellow card if you asked for an opposition player to be booked, but that seemed to be forgotten about very quickly. I think it's because players kept doing it so much that referees just couldn't keep track of it all. But yeah, that seemed like a strange free kick to give away, because it looked to me as though the ball was almost out of play anyway, and the Swiss players paid more attention to Anthony to bundle him off the ball rather than to actually just boot the ball out for a throw, which would be far less dangerous than this free kick that they've given away here, with two substitutes standing over this one, Rodrigo and Anthony. Right-footed and left-footed option here. Referee just marshalling everything at the edge of the box. It's Anthony's ball in. It gets a little bit of a deflection at the edge of the area. It didn't quite get the pace and the height on it that he wanted, but after that deflection, it's easy for Jan Sommer.
No, it was a poor free kick, that, from Anthony, and some of the deliveries we've seen from Brazil today have really been quite disappointing. It was very straightforward for Sommer. He was aided by that slight deflection on its way through. It was a kind one for the keeper because it meant the ball just went straight to him.
Well, here comes Switzerland for a rare jaunt into the Brazil half. It's down the right-hand side with Renato Stefan under a bit of pressure, just forced to roll this back into midfield for Granit Xhaka. He goes square to Rodriguez. Option here down the left-hand side as Rodriguez goes on the overlap after that pass to him from Fernandes, but rightfully so. The Swiss player with the number 2 on his shirt, Fernandes, puts his hand up to apologise because that pass was way over him.
Yeah, it was, and Switzerland have not really produced enough quality themselves going forward today. It's been very much a game that's been dominated by defences, and Switzerland have done well so far to stop this very talented Brazil side from getting the goal. I mean, Brazil are going to feel hard done by in terms of the goal, but the rules state that you can't recover from an offside position, and even though it's one of those annoying ones, really, where it happened quite a bit before the actual build-up to the goal. It still got chalked off.
It did, and here comes Anthony now for Brazil. Right-hand edge of the penalty area, goes back towards Casemiro, who tries to fire a ball into the box. He was losing his balance as he was doing so, but it doesn't matter too much because it does deflect off a Swiss player out for a corner. We're into the last 10 minutes of this game. Wouldn't like to predict how much injury time there's going to be. So we can see Cafu, Roberto Carlos and Ronaldo. Tell you what, the three of them could certainly help in their heyday in this kind of situation, but certainly the deliveries would have been better, wouldn't they, with Roberto Carlos whipping them in. But Anthony now is looking to whip this in left-footed from the right-hand side. He's got 6 players to aim for. He lifts it. Jan Sommer comes out. He's not the best on crosses, doesn't get to it. A second follow-up header, though, is straight down the middle, and it's an easy save for the goalkeeper. You're going to have to do something pretty special with a header to score from 18 yards out.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually quite good contact that Bruno Guimaraes got with the header, and it would have been a very unusual way to take the lead. You don't see too many headers scored from that sort of range, but I don't think Jan Sommer was ever going to be beaten from that kind of distance.
We can see Murat Yakin trying to get some instruction. It's interesting that his first sort of thought as he was stood to the pitch side, he was pointing back towards his own half. So it was almost like he's saying to Midtjylland, don't worry about playing forward. Let's just make sure we keep the ball. This will be a very good point for Switzerland if they can hold on. They would fancy their chances to beat Serbia in the last round of group games. And they'll also fancy that Brazil will beat Cameroon. So in any case, they should be in the top 2.
Yeah, I still think these sides will qualify from the group, and it's mainly by virtue of what happened in the first games. Brazil getting that good win against Serbia, who came into the tournament as a fancied dark horse because of all the attacking players they've got. They dispatched them easily, and I think the result this morning helped both sides as well with the 3-3 draw.
Well, here comes Brazil now, and the ball's played into the penalty area. It's Casemiro with the strike, and on 82 minutes, surely Brazil have won it this time. It was just a loose ball that ended up inside the penalty area. Casemiro swipes at it with the right foot, and it's into the corner of the net. And Brazil could surely celebrate this time. There's not going to be an offside flag to stop this goal.
No, I don't think there is. Well, you never know, do you? But those Brazilian legends we've just been talking about, smiling as they sit and look at that goal. It was a really nice strike from Casemiro. He gets across it, so it angles towards the top corner. We'll just have another look at the replay now. It's an excellent flicked ball into Casemiro's path, and he absolutely wallops that into the top corner. Really nicely hit. Akanji maybe unsighted the goalkeeper because Sommer didn't dive across. Even if he had, he wasn't going to save that. Brilliant goal from Casemiro.
Oh, it gets a slight nick off Akanji as well.
That's why.
I was going to give a huge amount of, I'm still going to give a huge amount of praise to Casemiro for taking the shot that he did. But now that we've seen that replay, the fact that it goes so far into, even without that slight nick off the defender, I don't think that Sommer's going to save it anyway.
No, I don't think he is. It was a powerful strike, so it probably would have just shot into the back of the net. Tite absolutely delighted. Roberto Carlos fist pumping. Ronaldo clapping. And it's Casemiro who's got the goal. And I don't think he'll have been too many people's choice to get the goal. It's just his 6th for Brazil in his 67th cap. And now the game is going to completely flip around. I think we're going to see Switzerland get forward and Brazil do all the defending.
No, absolutely. We saw Kaká as well. He was very happy with that goal. Just celebrating there with Cafu. All the Brazilian legends are in attendance this evening, which if anything puts more pressure on the current squad to try and emulate what they did all those years ago. But a long ball now pumped towards the Brazil penalty area. Comfortable save there from Alisson. And it just goes to show, you mentioned those legends that are in the stands this evening. In that World Cup in 2002, I think it was in a group game against Costa Rica, one of the centre-backs scored a fantastic overhead kick direct from a corner. And it just goes to show you that in Brazil, everyone has a bit of an attack mind. And Casemiro, whose first thought is to be a defensive midfielder, there's strikers that wouldn't have the nerve to try and cut the ball the way he just did there.
Yeah, it set up so nicely for him. It was a wonderful shot from Casemiro, and that's what he can provide. Yes, he is a destroyer in midfield, but he can get forward, he can pass the ball, he can support attacks, and he is a good all-rounder for Brazil in midfield. Thinking about him at club level, I was surprised it took him as long as he did to get into the Manchester United first team. He was a bench warmer for the first month.
He was, yeah. I just wondered maybe there was an issue over his fitness, because certainly in terms of what he provides, you'd think that he would be an automatic start. But yeah, we could see the grimace on the face of Murat Yakin there when he saw that ball go in. So we're getting ready to see a change for either side. Alex Telles getting ready to come on for Brazil, and Fabian Frey coming on here for Switzerland. Frey being a midfielder, but he can also get into that number 10 role as well. Just confirm who he's replaced, but Alexandro is off to be replaced by Alex. That's a like-for-like swap, really, isn't it?
Yeah, like-for-like at left-back. I don't know if Sandro's maybe picked up a problem. I think Fabian Frey has come on to replace Sylvain Widmer, who's playing at right-back, so I think they're probably just going to try and take one defender off, throw caution to the wind, but it's Brazil coming forward again with Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony gets towards the edge of the area. He's got 3 players inside the penalty area. He tries to go alone. He gets past Rodriguez initially. Then Rodriguez does really well. He just sort of shields the ball and then stands up and clears it himself up towards the halfway line. Does find Haris Seferovic, whose ball down the left-hand side is quickly picked up. As you mentioned, their confirmation that it is Sylvain Widmer that goes off to be replaced by Fabian Frey for Switzerland. Here come Brazil now, left-hand edge of the penalty area with Gabriel Jesus into Rodrigo. Rodrigo trying to go for goal himself, forcing a save from Sommer, and that is away for a corner kick.
Yeah, Brazil certainly not resting on their laurels. They want a second goal, which really would kill this game off as a meaningful tie. Now Rodrigo going for goal, trying to spot Sommer at that near post, but it's a good save over the bar.
Taken short, and the ball is played back towards the edge of the area now. Space here for Anthony on the right-hand side. Nobody was close now. He goes for the left-footed effort. He almost had too much time. He really tried to measure that one and get some height on that, but in the end he couldn't quite get it on target.
No, he couldn't. I don't know whether he was caught in two minds, whether he wanted to try and put a delicate cross into the box or try and curl it towards that far corner. In the end, it was neither, really. Long ball forward by Switzerland, but it's really well cut out by Thiago Silva, who's almost ageless at 38 years old. He's played well in this game. Yes, he's not had a huge amount to deal with, but he certainly doesn't look like he's past it.
No, he doesn't. No, as you mentioned, of course, he's the second oldest player in this Brazil squad, with Dani Alves being the oldest. But yeah, I mean, Thiago Silva has really been a model professional in terms of how he's been able to keep his fitness and be such a useful player for his club and for his country over such a long period of time, as Nico Elvedi gives a free kick away. Frustration for Switzerland now, but they just never really had a plan B. They were always going to hope to nick a goal if they had the chance, but the longer the second half went on, they just accepted their role as the team that was defending a 0-0. Now they've conceded, they don't really have any way out. Yeah,
it's funny how one goal can change things, because had they come away from this with a 0-0 draw, everyone would have been saying it was a brilliant defensive rearguard, a streetwise team. Yet if they lose 1-0, everyone will be complaining that they showed a real lack of ambition. It's just those fine margins, really. Even though they're probably going to come away with a loss, they've still got a great chance. They're still in the box seat going into the last group game on Friday.
Here comes the free kick, overhit though, and in the end Jan Sommer doesn't want to waste any time. He could have let it go out for a goal kick, but he acrobatically flicked it up in the air, made sure it was still in play, bowled it out quickly, and maybe he regrets that now, because he's put his outfield players under pressure almost immediately. Akanji now trying to turn away here from Rodrigo, and eventually Sommer has to come out. Brazil appealing that it was a back pass, but I think it was, well, I suppose these days it's actually quite hard to give a back pass, but again, Switzerland, their own worst enemy here. They don't want to clear it long, because that just gives possession back to Brazil, but they're under so much pressure they're giving the ball away anyway.
Well, we're seeing Brazil's extra energy now, because they've not had to do as much running. They've been more in charge of the ball, so they've got that energy in the tank, where Switzerland are wanting to play out from the back, get an attack going, and they're swarming around them. Really professional work this from Brazil, who for me have looked very solid without looking spectacular, and if they can look like this when they're maybe at a 5-6 out of 10, I still think they've got a lot more to give. So watch out other teams in terms of looking at Brazil for the rest of the tournament.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's almost a case of winning the group ugly. You don't want to get too many style points for doing things in the group stage, because you need that for later on in the tournament. But Brazil now with just seconds to go until we hit injury time. As we mentioned, at this World Cup, it's impossible to predict how much injury time there's going to be. I don't think there should be more than 4 or 5 minutes, really. We've had I can't think of the physio coming on once in the second half. Had substitutions, a disallowed goal, and a goal that's been given. So, as I say, that should equal about 4 minutes. We'll wait and see in just a few seconds. Meantime, Brazil took the free kick short on this occasion. and Switzerland were able to clear the ball away, but it's straight into Brazilian possession deep inside their own half, as for the first time in a while Alisson's had to get involved. And the 6 minutes are up, so just a little bit more than what I was expecting. But, well, again, Switzerland just wasting possession there. Brazil gave the ball away inside their own half. Granit Xhaka had the ball. He had 3 or 4 options to pass, and he just played the ball down a channel to no one. Yeah,
it's really, really poor. I think Switzerland are running out of ideas and almost panicking when they get in possession in midfield. And it's kind of almost that lack of match practice, if you like, going forward, because they've spent so much time in the second half camped inside their own half with Brazil attacking them. As soon as they get over the halfway line, it's almost like they don't really know what to do with the ball, and Brazil have been able to pick them off quite easily.
They have a break in play here. Then there was a free kick. It looks like there was a foul from Eder Militao on Renato Steffen. Well, Eder Militao doesn't agree with that. We can see some glum-looking Swiss fans. Been a nation, as Dan mentioned at kickoff, that have become adept at getting into competitions, qualifying for major tournaments. And as I say, there's probably just a little bit too much for them to expect to go far in a World Cup, but they'll certainly feel as though they've got a very good chance in the last game of the group. Brazil have had 8 efforts on goal, and 5 of them have been on target. 4 efforts from Switzerland, none of them have been on target. And actually to get 5 on target from 8, compared to what we've seen from other teams, dare I say even England, that's actually a very good return.
Yeah, I mean, the shooting's not been too bad as far as they're concerned. They've not created a huge number of chances, because Switzerland have stopped them from doing that. But what Brazil have done is taken 1 chance, which is all they've needed so far, and that's going to be the difference between winning and losing.
With still 4 minutes of injury time to play here at Stadium 974 in Doha. Here comes Switzerland now, though, on a rare attack. Rodriguez's ball was a good one. It needed to be dealt with, and as you would expect, it was dealt with by the veteran Thiago Silva. Gets it out for a throw. Steffen takes it quickly, goes back towards Nico Elvedi. To Renato Steffen. Working down the left-hand side here with Rodriguez. Rodriguez's ball is flicked away by Marquinhos. Eder Militao now doesn't mess about, hoofs it up towards the halfway line. Brilliantly taken down by Gabriel Jesus. And then the pass forward is a superb one as well. This is a chance now to wrap it up inside injury time, but Vinicius Junior, not like him at all, made a real mess of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good defending by Manuel Akanji. He gets his body in the way and almost blocks off the avenue for him to pass it square. I think it was Anthony that was supporting him in attack as Jesus played the ball forward. I thought Vinicius Junior was just going to try and go for one of those low curlers round the outside of Akanji and try and stop Sommer from saving it, because Akanji would be blocking his line of sight.
Yeah, just perhaps he overcomplicated it slightly, but so we can see here the move that led to the goal. Really is a really sweet strike from Casemiro. Not the player that you would expect at all, but it's absolute delight. You've seen how much it means to players to score in the World Cup. Richarlison was so delighted the other night with his goals. Lewandowski literally in tears after he scored his first ever World Cup goal for Poland at the weekend. But getting back to action, there's a chance for wrapping it up now. Flicked on towards Rodrigo, whose strike is charged down. Well, you've got to credit the Swiss defenders here. Akanji with well, it's not a match-saving tackle, because Switzerland are going to lose this game anyway, but it's such a superb bit of defending when you thought it was going to be 2-0.
It's an absolutely brilliant first touch from Vinicius Junior as the ball was just sent upfield. All the Brazil substitutes thought it was going to be 2-0, and that would have been game over. And then Rodrigo just shot towards target, but Akanji with some heroic defending. I don't know whether Sommer would have got there anyway, but Switzerland doing everything they can to prevent this scoreline from getting bigger.
Absolutely, we saw Edison there. He was ready to go for some limbs there, wasn't he, with Richarlison, who was replaced earlier in the half. But here come Brazil again. They're desperate to get this second goal, just to put the icing on the cake. Dispossessed at the edge of the area, though, was Vinicius Junior. And then a ball charged down, which may stay in play here for Vinicius Junior. It does stay in play, and he cuts in onto his right foot. He breaks into the penalty area, trying to spin away from Akanji. Gets the ball in, which is flicked up in the air. Not too far, though, by Elvedi, so it's still going to be a chance for Brazil to have some possession at the edge of the box. It's Bruno Guimaraes in towards Rodrigo at the edge of the area. He dances away from a couple of players before having to go back towards the left-hand side here for Vinicius again. He's trying to get away from Fabian Frey. Frey back at the edge of his own box, but Brazil once again making it difficult here for Switzerland to even get a touch of the ball. It's out for a throw, and we have 1 minute to play.
Yeah, 1 more minute for Brazil to hold on now, and they've got the ball at least where they want it, deep inside the Switzerland half. It's probably going to go towards the corner flag now. I know Brazil are an attacking side, but even for them, they've got to be a little bit more pragmatic. That's good play from Gabriel Jesus with the back heel, knowing that there was a possibility of winning a corner. A corner he gets, 40 more seconds to go.
Yeah, not long now. We'll see if Brazil even wants to put this ball into the box. May just be a case of taking a short corner. That's exactly what they've done. A short corner here between Vinicius and Gabriel Jesus. Jesus just trying to hold off the attention of Edilson Fernandez, but Fernandez wins it back. Switzerland got time to send the long ball forward here to Seferovic. They do try that, but Anthony is back there. He cuts out the pass, and we pretty much had the full 6 minutes of injury time now. Referee looks at his watch and calls time here at Stadium 974 in Doha, where Brazil had to work very, very hard, but in the end they got their deserved win with an unlikely scorer from Casemiro scoring a fabulous goal to give Brazil the 1-0 win, and it's all down to the last round of games at the end of this week. But that's it for this game. Thank you very much from myself, Paul Shabatovic and Dan McCarthy. Join us again soon.